when life becomes loud, when the world fills your mind with endless noise, and when every distraction tries to pull you away from who you are meant to become. There is a quiet power inside you waiting to be awakened. Growth does not begin in the applause of the crowd. It begins in the silence, in the moments when no one is watching, when no one is praising you, when no one even knows what is happening inside your heart. Real transformation begins when you learn to embrace the quiet. In that silence, you hear your truth. You understand your direction. You recognize your strength. And you learn that every step forward does not need an announcement. There is a part of you that already knows what you must do. You can feel it in your chest, in your thoughts, in the way your soul reacts when you imagine a better version of yourself. That version of you is not created in one big moment. It is built slowly, patiently, quietly. It is shaped in early mornings when everyone else is asleep, in late nights when you are focused on becoming stronger, in the private moments when you are choosing discipline over comfort, progress over excuses, growth over stagnation. Silence becomes the birthplace of power because silence forces you to face yourself. And when you face yourself honestly, change becomes possible. Every great transformation begins with a decision, the decision to grow. Not for others, not for validation, not for applause, but for yourself. When you grow in silence, you train your mind to stay firm, even when the world doesn't understand you. You learn to keep moving even when you have no support. You learn that consistency is more valuable than attention, and that discipline lasts longer than motivation. Your silence becomes your strength, and your strength becomes your identity. There are moments in life when you must disappear, not because you are weak, but because you are preparing. You step back, you create distance, you allow yourself to breathe, to rebuild, to reset. You separate from noise, from negativity, from chaos. You enter a private season of your life where the work is not visible, but the results will be. Growth in silence is not hiding. It is evolving. It is rewriting your story from the inside out. It is mastering yourself so deeply that the world is forced to notice the difference when you return. Not every move you make needs to be shared. Not every goal needs to be spoken. Not every dream needs an audience. Some of the most powerful decisions in your life will be made quietly, without anyone's approval. And that is the beauty of inner growth. It belongs to you. The world cannot interfere with it. The world cannot shape it. The world cannot take it away. The silent work you do in your private hours becomes the foundation of the life you build in your public ones. There will be days when you question yourself, when the path feels unclear, when doubt whispers louder than your confidence. But in those moments, remind yourself that transformation is not always loud, dramatic, or fast. Sometimes it is subtle. Sometimes it is steady. Sometimes it is hardly noticeable day by day. But when you look back weeks, months, or years later, you realize everything has changed. The quiet discipline you kept, the small choices you made, the private battles you fought, they all formed the person you are becoming. You have survived moments that would have broken others. You have overcome challenges you didn't think you could handle. You have carried pain that shaped you, losses that strengthened you, and lessons that taught you what truly matters. And now you stand in a season where silence is not emptiness, it is preparation. Preparation for a stronger mind, a clearer vision, a more powerful identity. Preparation for the life you deserve. There is nothing weak about solitude. There is nothing small about keeping your dreams private. The world often mistakes noise for progress, but real progress happens when your actions speak louder than your announcements. When you choose to grow in silence, you stop performing for the world and start evolving for yourself. You stop needing external approval and begin trusting your own voice. You stop chasing validation and begin creating value. In silence, you learn to listen, not to the world, but to yourself. You hear your fears and confront them. You hear your desires and acknowledge them. You hear your intuition and follow it. You begin to understand who you truly are without the filters, without the expectations, without the pressure to be what others want you to be. And once you understand yourself, you become unstoppable. Success is not built on noise. It is built on quiet consistency, on silent discipline, on private sacrifices, on lonely mornings and focused nights, on countless moments when you could have quit but didn't. The world may never see those moments, but those moments are what shape your greatness. There comes a point in your journey when you begin to separate your old life from the new life you are building. Not because you hate who you were, but because you recognize that you have outgrown certain habits, certain environments, and certain ways of thinking. Growth often feels like letting go. Letting go of past versions of yourself. Letting go of expectations that were never yours. Letting go of the need to explain your transformation to people who will never understand it. And as you move into this new season, silence becomes your companion, not your cage. You start realizing that the noise around you was never helping you. The noise was distracting you, confusing you, pulling you away from your purpose. When you step into your silent season, you take your power back. You begin choosing what deserves your attention. You begin feeding your mind with clarity instead of chaos. And slowly, you start noticing something powerful. Your life becomes lighter. Your thoughts become sharper. Your vision becomes clearer. Because silence is not empty. Silence is full of answers. You begin to understand that every challenge you faced was shaping you. Every setback was preparing you. Every disappointment was redirecting you. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. Even the moments that broke your heart taught you how to rebuild it stronger. Even the people who walked away cleared space for the ones who will truly support your growth. And even the failures that embarrassed you in public are the ones that develop your strength in private. It is in silence that you begin to reframe your past, not as something that defines you, but as something that refined you. You realize that the storms you survived taught you resilience. The losses you endured taught you gratitude. The mistakes you made taught you wisdom. You are not here today because everything was easy. You are here because you kept going when it was not. Your persistence is your superpower, even if the world never gave you credit for it. And now, in this quiet chapter of your life, you begin to rebuild with intention. You are more cautious with your time, more selective with your circle, more patient with your progress. You stop rushing. You stop forcing. You stop comparing your journey to anyone else's. You start trusting that what's meant for you will never miss you, and what misses you was never meant for you. You understand that real success is not about speed, it's about endurance. It's about staying committed long enough for the results to show. You begin to appreciate the small victories, waking up early, staying consistent, doing the work when you don't feel like it, saying no to distractions, protecting your energy, holding yourself accountable. These small wins compound over time, and they silently shape you into someone unrecognizable compared to who you used to be. You start to realize that growth isn't loud. Growth is steady. Growth is subtle. Growth is quiet. And one day, the world will see what you are building in the dark. There will be moments when people question your silence. They will wonder why you're not as accessible as before. They will notice you shifting, distancing, evolving. But what they don't understand is that silence is not you abandoning them. It is you returning to yourself. You no longer waste your voice on conversations that drain you. You no longer waste your time on things that weaken you. You no longer seek validation from places that never valued you. You choose to pour into your future instead of leaking energy into your past. And in that silence, you start to feel something different. You feel stronger. You feel more grounded. You feel more confident in decisions you once hesitated to make. You feel more aligned with your purpose. You feel more at peace, even when life is still uncertain. Because silence teaches you emotional stability. Silence teaches you patience. Silence teaches you how to move wisely instead of reacting loudly. Silence teaches you how to build a life that cannot be shaken by temporary noise. And then something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself. You trust your instincts. You trust your abilities. You trust your vision. You trust the timing of your life. You stop second-guessing every move. You stop apologizing for outgrowing situations that kept you small. You stop shrinking to fit in rooms where you were never meant to stay. You start walking like someone who knows where they are going, even if the world doesn't see the path yet. You begin noticing that the areas of your life where you once felt insecure now feel different. Not because the world changed, but because you changed. You grew, you matured, you strengthened your mindset, you developed resilience, and now you no longer chase the life you want. You attract it. You attract peace through your boundaries. You attract success through your discipline. You attract confidence through your self-respect. You attract growth through your silence. Silence teaches you that you don't need recognition to be valuable. You don't need applause to be worthy. You don't need permission to evolve. You simply need the courage to stay committed when no one is watching. Because the truth is, the world only claps when the results are visible, but the results only appear when the work is done in silence. So keep building, keep growing, keep evolving, keep doing the work that no one sees, keep shaping the life that only you can imagine. You are in a season of quiet transformation, and transformation takes time. Do not doubt the process. Do not rush the results. Do not compare your pace to anyone else's. Your journey is unfolding exactly as it needs to. Every small step is progress. Every silent effort is building momentum. Every day you stay committed, you get closer to the life you are creating. You may not see the full picture yet, but you will. One day the pieces will align. One day the results will appear. One day the world will witness the transformation you created in silence. And when that day comes, you won't need to explain anything. Your growth will speak for itself. There comes a time in every person's life when the journey becomes less about proving something to the world and more about discovering something within themselves. When you grow in silence, you begin to understand that the most important conversations you ever have are the ones you have with your own mind. You start asking yourself deeper questions. Who am I becoming? What do I need to release? What is my life trying to teach me? When you allow yourself to sit quietly with those questions, answers begin to rise that you could never hear in the noise of daily life. In silence, you start seeing your patterns. You see where you held yourself back. You see where you doubted your own abilities. You see where you allowed fear to decide for you. But instead of judging yourself, you meet these realizations with compassion. You understand that you were learning. You were surviving. You were doing your best with the knowledge you had. And now, in this new season, you are becoming more intentional, more aware, more aligned with the future you want. Growth is not a moment. It is a choice you make every day. You choose to be disciplined when you want comfort. You choose to be patient when you want results now. You choose to rise even on days when you feel tired. And slowly, those choices build a foundation inside you that cannot be shaken. You realize that discipline is not punishment. It is a form of self-respect. It is honoring your goals even when your emotions argue with you. It is choosing long-term strength over short-term satisfaction. There will be days when you feel like you're not moving fast enough. Days when progress feels invisible. Days when your silence feels heavy and your effort feels unnoticed. But these are the days when your character is growing the most. These are the days when your mind strengthens. These are the days when your future self is being shaped. Silent seasons are not empty. They are transformative. They test you, teach you, and prepare you for the life you asked for. You start realizing that not everyone is meant to understand your silence. Some people feel uncomfortable with your growth because it reminds them of their own stagnation. Some people mistake your distance for coldness, when in reality, you are simply protecting your peace. And some people prefer the old version of you because that version didn't require them to reflect on themselves. But you didn't come into this world to stay the same. You came to evolve, to rise, to expand into your potential. And as you continue growing, you begin to see your life differently. You stop chasing people. You stop begging for attention. You stop trying to prove your worth. You begin to value your energy so deeply that anything that drains you no longer interests you. You start to understand that peace is priceless, and you would rather lose people than lose yourself. The more you fall in love with your solitude, the less you tolerate chaos. You realize that the quiet moments you have with yourself are more valuable than loud moments spent with the wrong people. The world tries to convince you that you must constantly share, constantly post, constantly announce your goals. But the truth is, the strongest chapters of your life are the ones no one knows about. The nights you spent working when everyone else slept. The early mornings when you got up even though you were exhausted. The hours you invested in mastering your craft. The battles you fought within yourself that no one will ever see. These private moments become the reason your public victories are possible. Your silence is your strategy. It allows you to move without interference. It allows you to build without distraction. It allows you to heal without judgment. You start to understand that quiet progress is still progress. In your silent season, you also begin to reconnect with your purpose. You listen to that inner voice that you've ignored for too long. It tells you what you truly want. It reminds you of the dreams you buried. It shows you the direction your soul is pulling you toward. And for the first time in a long time, you begin to trust it. You stop living for the expectations of others and start living for the calling within you. You understand that success is not built on speed. It is built on consistency. You don't have to do everything in one day. You don't have to achieve all your goals at once. You simply need to show up every day with intention. You simply need to keep moving, even if the steps are small. Because small steps compound, small steps become big changes, small steps create unstoppable momentum. And one day, You look back and realize that the quiet work you did every day changed your entire life. You begin to notice your mindset shifting. What once discouraged you now motivates you. What once scared you now challenges you. What once felt overwhelming now feels possible. You realize that the limits you believed in were only illusions created by doubt. And now that you've stepped into silence, doubt has less power. You are not running from your fears. You are walking through them. You are not avoiding your weaknesses. You are strengthening them. You are not waiting for inspiration. You are building it through discipline. As the silent season continues, you realize something beautiful. You are no longer the same person you were when it began. You stand taller. You think clearer. You act more intentionally. You feel more grounded. You've learned to trust the journey. You've learned to trust yourself. You've learned that silence does not weaken you. Silence strengthens you. It molds you. It prepares you. It transforms you into someone capable of achieving the life you once only dreamed of. And in that recognition, a new fire lights within you. You begin to walk with quiet confidence. You begin to speak with conviction. You begin to make decisions based on purpose rather than fear. You start protecting your goals with the mindset of someone who knows exactly where they're headed. You stop entertaining distractions because you know they cost you more than they offer. You stop accepting less because you finally understand your worth. Your silent growth is becoming visible, not through words, but through the energy you carry. People can sense that something is different about you. They feel your strength. They notice your confidence. They see a change in your presence, even if they cannot explain it. Because transformation always reveals itself, even when you try to hide it. And you understand that the journey is far from over. Silence has just begun shaping the next version of you. And this version will be stronger, deeper, wiser, unshakable, because you are no longer growing for people. You are growing for your soul. As you continue on this quiet path of transformation, something begins to shift inside you that is deeper than motivation. It is a new kind of strength, one that doesn't rely on excitement or mood. It comes from within. It comes from the understanding that your future is shaped by what you repeatedly do in silence, not by what you promise in public. You begin to recognize that discipline is not a punishment. It is a gift you give to the person you are becoming. There are mornings when getting up feels difficult, but you rise anyway. There are moments when your goals feel far away, but you keep moving. There are days when the silence feels heavy, but you carry it with patience. This is the season that tests your commitment, not your intention, not your dreams, but your commitment. And even when no one sees your effort, you push through because you understand the truth. You are responsible for your future. No one else will build your life for you. No one else will save you. No one else will walk your path. Your strength becomes your responsibility, and your silence becomes the training ground where that strength grows. During this silent season, you begin noticing how your relationship with yourself is changing. You start treating yourself with more respect. You talk to yourself with more encouragement. You stop being your own enemy and begin being your own supporter. You let go of the harsh words you used to speak to yourself, the doubts, the criticism, the fear. Instead, you begin replacing them with patience, with belief, with understanding. You realize that growth requires kindness. You cannot evolve while constantly attacking yourself. And slowly, you begin to give yourself the grace you always deserved. You also begin to understand that growth requires discomfort. Silence forces you to face your weaknesses, and facing your weaknesses is never easy. It challenges your ego. It exposes the areas where you need to improve. It reveals the habits that are holding you back. But instead of avoiding this discomfort, you begin to welcome it. You begin to see it as a sign that you are evolving. You understand that discomfort is not your enemy. It is your guide. It shows you where change is needed. It shows you where growth is hiding. And when you embrace it, you step into a new level of strength. In this season, you become more protective of your goals. You stop sharing your dreams with people who cannot see your vision. You stop announcing every move you make. You understand that silence protects your energy from doubt, negativity, and jealousy. Not everyone is meant to witness your journey. Some people only understand your results, not your process. And that's okay. You did not come here to convince people. You came here to grow. You realize that many of the things you once cared about no longer matter. You stop worrying about what others think because their opinions do not pay your bills, do not build your future, and do not heal your soul. You stop comparing your journey to someone else's because their timeline is not yours. You stop seeking validation from people who cannot even validate themselves. You begin to walk your path with a quiet confidence, knowing that your journey is unique and your growth is real. Silence teaches you to celebrate yourself, not through loud announcements, but through inner pride. You begin to appreciate your own progress. You acknowledge the moments you stayed strong. You recognize the steps you took that no one else saw. You learn to clap for yourself because you realize that your effort matters, even when it goes unnoticed by the world. You also begin to understand the power of patience. Silence teaches you that real growth takes time. A seed does not become a tree overnight. A dream does not become reality in a week. A person does not transform in a moment. Everything meaningful in life requires patience. So you stop rushing the process and start embracing it. You trust that every day you remain committed, you are becoming a stronger version of yourself. You trust that the work you do now will reward you later in ways you cannot yet imagine. And as your patience grows, your vision sharpens. You start seeing the kind of life you want more clearly. You start understanding the kind of person you must become to achieve it. You stop living on autopilot and start living with intention. Every action becomes meaningful. Every decision becomes thoughtful. Every day becomes an opportunity to shape your destiny. And even though the world is silent as you grow, your purpose becomes louder within you. There is beauty in silent progress. There is power in private evolution. There is strength in quiet discipline. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not failing. You are becoming. You are preparing. You are building. Even if the world cannot see it yet, your future self can. That is why you feel a pull inside you, a pull towards something greater, something deeper, something more aligned with who you truly are. That pull is your calling. And every day you grow in silence, you move closer to it. And then, slowly, you begin feeling a new kind of peace. A peace that doesn't depend on others. A peace that doesn't disappear when life gets difficult. A peace that stays with you because it comes from within. It comes from knowing that you are doing the right work. It comes from trusting your process. It comes from prioritizing your growth. It comes from choosing your future over your comfort. Silence is shaping you into someone unrecognizable compared to who you once were. Stronger, wiser, more patient, more grounded, more aware of your value. You are not becoming better for anyone else. You are becoming better for yourself. And that is the most powerful transformation of all. As the silent season continues, you begin noticing something powerful happening within your everyday routine. You start moving with more intention. The tasks that used to overwhelm you now feel manageable. The goals that once felt impossible now feel within reach. You no longer seek shortcuts because you understand that the long path builds the strongest character. You begin trusting the slow grind, the steady progress, the quiet work that happens away from the spotlight. You understand that success built in silence lasts longer than success built through noise. You begin to see your life as a series of small but powerful steps. Every day you wake up and choose discipline, you strengthen the muscle of consistency. Every day you work quietly on your vision, you sharpen your focus. Every time you push yourself a little further, you build endurance. And while these changes may seem small, they are creating a transformation within you that will become impossible to ignore. You begin forming habits that reflect the person you want to become. You stop wasting time on things that steal your potential. You start consuming information that feeds your mind. You begin practicing stillness, something you once found difficult. You realize that silence teaches you more than noise ever will. And in that silence, you begin to uncover parts of yourself you never recognized before. Your resilience, your patience, your confidence, your purpose. You stop reacting emotionally to everything around you. You start responding with clarity. You begin understanding that not every situation deserves your energy, not every comment deserves your attention, and not every person deserves access to you. You separate yourself from the negativity that once affected you so easily. You stop letting criticism break you because you know your path. You stop letting doubt slow you down because you trust your journey. And you stop letting fear control you because you finally recognize your own strength. You begin valuing your energy in a way you never did before. You protect it fiercely. You stop allowing people to drain you with their chaos. You stop explaining yourself to those who don't want to understand. You stop giving your time to things that don't align with your growth. You start investing that energy into yourself, your goals, your healing, your mindset, your dream. And because of that, your life begins to change. You start to notice a shift in your thoughts. The negative voice that once controlled your decisions begins to fade. The doubts that once held you back lose their power. The fear that once shaped your choices becomes quieter. In their place rises a new voice, a stronger, calmer, wiser voice, a voice that encourages you, a voice that believes in you, a voice that tells you to keep going even on the days when nothing makes sense. That voice is your new identity taking form. You begin realizing that growth is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning to who you were always meant to be, the real you. The you without doubt, the you without fear, the you without limitations placed by the world. Silence helps you reconnect with that version of yourself. It strips away the noise, the pressure, the expectations, allowing your true self to breathe, to rise, to shine. You start understanding that healing is also part of silent growth. Healing from old wounds, healing from broken relationships, healing from disappointments, healing from the moments that stole your confidence. You begin to forgive, not for others, but for yourself. You forgive the version of you that stayed too long, tolerated too much, accepted too little. You forgive yourself for the times you didn't know better, didn't feel strong enough, didn't believe in your own worth. And with every act of forgiveness, you release a weight that was holding you down for years. And with each release, you feel lighter. You feel clearer. You feel more connected to your purpose. You begin understanding that the quiet moments aren't empty. They are sacred. They are the moments when you recharge, when you listen, when you learn, when you rebuild. They are the moments that strengthen your soul so you can shine in the world without losing yourself again. Silence teaches you to observe more and talk less. You begin seeing people more clearly, their intentions, their energy, their values. You learn who deserves a place in your circle and who only wants a place in your life for convenience. You learn who supports your growth and who feels threatened by it. And because you are growing, you no longer fear letting go. You understand that not everyone can come with you into your next chapter. Some people were part of your story, but not meant to be part of your future. And accepting that truth sets you free. As you continue on this quiet path, you begin to trust the timing of your life. You stop rushing. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop trying to control everything. You understand that what is meant for you will arrive at the right time, not when you are anxious, not when you are desperate, but when you are ready. And in this silent season, you are preparing yourself for that moment. You are strengthening your foundation so that when your blessings arrive, you can hold them, nurture them, and grow with them. You begin to notice that the person you are becoming feels stronger than the person you were. You feel more grounded, more focused, more in control of your emotions, more confident in your decisions. You no longer need validation because your silence has taught you how to validate yourself. You no longer need applause because your growth has become your reward. You no longer need to prove anything because you know exactly who you are. And slowly, you begin to fall in love with the process. Not just the results, not just the achievements, but the journey, the quiet work, the private battles, the early mornings, the late nights, the self-discipline, the reflection, the healing, the evolution. You begin to appreciate every moment that shaped you, every experience that grew you, every challenge that strengthened you. And you realize the truth. You are becoming someone extraordinary, not because the world sees it, but because you feel it within you. Every meaningful transformation begins with a private decision to stop repeating the cycles that hurt you and start choosing the habits that build you. And the world may never witness the moment when you say, "I'm done with who I used to be." But that moment will echo through every part of your future, because the decision you make in silence becomes the foundation that strengthens your entire life. You grow when you stop arguing with your old identity. You grow when you stop fighting for your limitations. You grow when you stop explaining your pain to people who have no intention of understanding it. Some people are addicted to misunderstanding you because it keeps you in the place where they feel comfortable. But you are not required to shrink just so others feel steady. Silence teaches you to redirect your energy. Instead of trying to convince people why you're changing, you simply change. Instead of defending your evolution, you let your results become your voice. Instead of proving your value, you build your value. And slowly, the world realizes that the quiet version of you is far more powerful than the loud one used to be. Growth requires distance. Distance from old habits. Distance from old beliefs. Distance from people who remind you of your past more than they support your future. And that distance isn't emotional coldness. It's emotional protection. You're not turning away from the world. You're turning toward your purpose. There comes a phase in life when outside noise becomes dangerous, when too many opinions weaken your direction, when too many voices confuse your instincts. That's when silence becomes your armor. That's when stillness becomes your strategy. And that's when solitude becomes your strength. In silence, you stop being the version of yourself that tries to please the world. You stop chasing validation that never meant anything. You stop waiting for applause before taking action. You stop depending on reassurance before you make a move. You realize that quiet confidence is built through consistency, not compliments. Your transformation will not feel loud. It will feel like waking up one morning and deciding that the excuses no longer make sense. It will feel like choosing the harder path because it finally aligns with who you want to be. It will feel like stepping into a higher standard without announcing it to anyone. And the world will only notice later, when the results are undeniable, when the shift becomes visible, when the upgraded version of you appears without warning. They will call it sudden. You will know it was silent. Growth feels lonely because you are stepping into parts of yourself that others have never met. You're breaking patterns that have existed for years. You're replacing impulses that kept you stuck. You're choosing discipline when comfort is calling your name. And not everyone will understand why. People will have questions, they will assume things, they will create stories, but none of that matters because transformation is not a performance, it is a personal commitment. Your silence is not emptiness, it is the sound of alignment. It is the space where your mind resets, your heart clears, and your strength rebuilds. You become dangerous in silence. Not because you want to hurt anyone, but because you're no longer controlled by distractions, emotions, or opinions. You think clearer. You act smarter. You choose better. You say less but do more. You move with purpose instead of pressure. When you grow in silence, you begin to notice how your energy shifts, how you stop reacting to things that used to bother you, how your patience strengthens, how your focus sharpens, how you stop chasing what isn't meant for you, and how you start attracting what aligns with your growth. You stop repeating stories of why you can't. You stop clinging to people who drain you. You stop participating in conversations that lower your vibration. You stop giving your time to anyone who treats your presence like a convenience. You begin to protect your peace like the foundation of everything you're building, because it is. In silence, you realize you don't need the world to agree with your vision. The vision is yours, because the assignment is yours. And nobody else has to see it for you to build it. Nobody else has to approve it for you to take action. Nobody else has to support it for you to rise. Your drive comes from within. Your fire comes from within. Your transformation begins within. And when you embrace this truth, you start moving differently. You start choosing differently. You start believing differently. You start becoming someone your past self never imagined. Not because you shouted your potential, but because you honored it in the quiet spaces of your life. There is a moment in your growth when everything starts to feel uncomfortable, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally outgrowing what once felt normal. That discomfort is not a sign to stop. It's a sign that your life is stretching into a bigger shape. Change rarely feels gentle. It feels like shedding a layer you once thought you needed. In this stage, you no longer fit into the patterns you used to repeat. You no longer connect with conversations that once entertained you. You no longer feel stable around people who thrive on chaos. Your mind becomes sharper, your boundaries become clearer, and your tolerance for unnecessary noise becomes smaller. This is the silent filter that shows you what is meant to stay and what must go. Growing in silence doesn't mean hiding your potential. It means protecting it. It means understanding that the early stages of transformation are delicate. They require space, patience, and privacy. They require a version of you that avoids distraction, honors discipline, and refuses to sabotage your progress for temporary comfort. There will be days when you feel alone in your journey, days when old temptations try to pull you back, days when doubt whispers louder than confidence. But silence allows you to hear something deeper, your inner voice reminding you why you started. Nobody else gets access to that voice. Nobody else hears the promises you make to yourself. And that's why this stage matters so much. In silence, you begin to break emotional habits you didn't even realize were controlling your life. The habit of overthinking what people think. The habit of lowering your standards to keep peace. The habit of saying yes when your heart wants to say no. These habits die slowly, but they die for good when you choose to evolve. Your silence becomes your reset. It becomes the space where your thoughts reorganize, where your emotions settle, where your purpose sharpens. Most people rush through life without ever stopping to hear themselves. But you're choosing to step back, breathe, observe, and rebuild your identity intentionally. That is rare. That is powerful. Transformation asks you to be brave enough to disappoint the old version of yourself. And silence gives you the strength to do that. You stop trying to prove that you've changed. Instead, you quietly live in ways that cannot be denied. You show up differently. You speak differently. You think differently. You behave differently. And eventually, you notice something shocking. You no longer recognize the person you used to be. This is the stage where your energy becomes valuable. You don't waste it on conflict. You don't waste it on convincing. You don't waste it on people who don't appreciate your growth. You pour your energy only into what feeds your mind, strengthens your spirit, and elevates your future. And that choice alone creates a life you never imagined. The path becomes clearer. Your priorities become sharper. You stop needing motivation from outside because discipline replaces it. You stop expecting support because self-belief fills the gap. You stop waiting for the right moment because you understand the right moment is created, not found. That's the strength silence builds. Unstoppable, unshakable, self-generated power. And slowly, you begin to notice the signs of inner transformation. You start speaking with more intention. You start choosing your reactions with more maturity. You start protecting your peace with more confidence. You start saying no without guilt. You start showing up for yourself even on the days when your feelings try to hold you back. This is not the loud kind of growth people post online. This is the slow, deep, private kind that rewires your entire life. It is the type of growth that makes you a better thinker, a better decision maker, a better human. And even though nobody sees the work happening inside you, they will feel the difference in every interaction. This is the silent rise, the part of your journey where the world sleeps on your potential while you quietly improve it. And when the time comes for your results to show, you won't need to announce anything. Your transformation will speak louder than any explanation ever could. There comes a time in your growth when you start to value peace more than attention, alignment more than approval, and purpose more than comfort. That shift happens quietly. It happens when you begin to understand that real strength isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about becoming someone you can rely on. In this stage, silence becomes the place where you learn the difference between what drains you and what builds you. You start to feel the weight of certain conversations and environments. You begin to notice which people leave you feeling empty and which ones elevate your mindset. You become more selective not because you think you're better, but because you finally understand the cost of allowing the wrong energy into your life. This level of growth demands honesty, brutal honesty with yourself. You stop sugarcoating your habits. You stop downplaying your patterns. You stop pretending that certain things don't hurt you. You acknowledge the behaviors that keep you stuck, the distractions that steal your progress, and the emotions you've been avoiding for years. And in that honesty, something powerful happens. You become ready to change. You realize that silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of clarity. It's where you examine your life without filters. It's where you ask yourself the questions you've been running from. It's where you confront the truth that your future depends on your willingness to let go of your past. Slowly, you start releasing the things that no longer match your direction. You release the expectations that limit you. You release the guilt that follows you. You release the habits that drain your discipline. You release the fear of becoming someone new. Growth requires making space, and silence is where that space is created. You begin to understand that not everyone who started with you is meant to stay with you. Some people were chapters, not lifetimes. Some people were lessons, not anchors. Some connections were temporary bridges that helped you cross into a wiser version of yourself. And when those connections fade, you don't chase. You thank them silently and continue forward. This stage teaches you the art of letting go without bitterness. You learn to detach from things that aren't aligned with your purpose, and you do it without resentment. You stop clinging to situations that clearly drain you. You stop forcing relationships that don't respect your growth. Your silence becomes a statement, not of weakness, but of transformation. You're no longer available for negativity, drama, or emotional chaos. You don't respond the way you used to. You don't react to every trigger. You don't get pulled into every problem. You move with intention because your mind is finally clear enough to guide you. This is where your standards rise. Quietly, deeply, permanently. You stop accepting inconsistent effort. You stop tolerating half-hearted commitment. You stop settling for opportunities that don't match your potential. You start expecting more from yourself, not from others. You set boundaries that protect your energy, your focus, and your emotional health. You start trusting yourself more. You stop second-guessing your intuition. You stop apologizing for wanting a better life. You stop dimming your light to make others comfortable. You begin to understand that the person you are becoming deserves space, respect, and commitment, even if the people around you don't understand why. And here's the powerful part. Once you reach this level of growth, your silence becomes your strength. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you no longer waste words on anything that doesn't align with your purpose. You choose your battles wisely. You choose your environment carefully. You choose your future intentionally. This is the evolution that happens quietly, but changes your entire life. There comes a point in your silent growth where you start to see life differently. You begin to notice that the things you used to chase no longer excite you. The validation you once wanted no longer matters. The people you tried so hard to impress no longer hold power over your emotions. This is the quiet shift that happens when you finally understand your worth. You stop measuring your progress by comparison. You stop looking sideways and start looking inward. You realize that real transformation isn't about being better than someone else. It's about becoming better than the version of you who settled, hesitated, or doubted. And every day you choose silence. You sharpen that evolution. This is when you begin to realize how strong you truly are. You survived situations that could have broken you. You held yourself together when nobody else knew you were falling apart. You carried pain without complaining. You rebuilt yourself from pieces nobody ever saw. That resilience was born in silence, shaped in silence, strengthened in silence. You start embracing the truth that you don't need everyone to understand your journey. Most people couldn't handle the battles you fought. Most people wouldn't survive the storms you carried alone. And yet, here you are, rising quietly, growing privately, building strength nobody can take credit for. That is something to honor, not hide. As your inner world becomes stronger, your outer world begins to shift. You attract new opportunities because your energy is no longer tied to the past. You begin to meet people who match your growth. not your wounds. You start feeling drawn to environments that support your evolution, not environments that drain your spirit. Life begins to rearrange itself around your higher mindset. This is what silence does. It turns you inward long enough for you to rebuild the foundation of your life. It teaches you to trust your instincts, to honor your peace, to follow your purpose even when nobody claps for you. It teaches you that the world's approval is optional, but your self-respect is non-negotiable. You begin to choose your life with intention. You choose discipline over distraction. You choose purpose over comfort. You choose peace over chaos. You choose growth over excuses. You choose the future over the familiarity of the past. And the more you choose these things, the more powerful your silence becomes. People may begin to wonder what happened to you. They may say you've changed. They may say you're distant. They may say you're not the same person. And they're right. You're not. You have outgrown the version of yourself that needed noise to feel alive. You have outgrown the version of yourself that relied on approval to feel confident. You've outgrown the version of yourself that gave energy to people who didn't value it. Now, you're building a life rooted in clarity, not confusion. A life rooted in direction, not distraction. A life rooted in purpose, not pressure. Every day you commit to this silent growth. You become more aligned with the life you're destined for. This stage is powerful because you begin to recognize your patterns, and you take responsibility for them. You realize that your future is not waiting for someone else to change. It's waiting for you to change. You understand that transformation doesn't happen when circumstances shift. It happens when your mindset shifts. You start walking with a calmness that comes from self-trust. You start speaking with a certainty that comes from self-knowledge. You start moving with a confidence that comes from self-respect. And people feel it, not because you're louder, but because your presence becomes stronger. Your silence begins to speak. It speaks through your maturity. It speaks through your boundaries. It speaks through your choices. It speaks through your discipline. It speaks through your growth. And eventually, the world will notice the difference, even if they never saw the work. You are becoming a version of yourself that no chaos can distract, no doubt can weaken, and no negativity can influence. This is the power that builds in silence, the kind of power that lasts. There comes a stage in your silent evolution where you stop rushing your life. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop pushing for things that clearly aren't aligned with you. Instead, you begin to trust the timing of your growth. You understand that anything built with patience lasts longer than anything built with pressure. This is where your maturity begins to shine. You're no longer obsessed with quick results or overnight success. You're focused on becoming the kind of person who can sustain success. You're building discipline, emotional intelligence, and inner strength, things that can't be seen instantly, but change everything over time. In silence, you learn that not every opportunity deserves your yes. Not every invitation deserves your energy. Not every situation requires your response. You begin to protect your presence like it matters. Because it does. You're not accessible to everyone anymore. You're not available for every conversation or every distraction. You've outgrown the need to be everywhere, and you've embraced the power of being intentional. This is the part of growth where your mind becomes clearer than ever. You begin to understand what you truly want. Not what society told you to want. Not what people expected from you, but what aligns with your soul. You start walking in a direction that feels authentic, even if nobody else understands it. You stop reacting emotionally to everything. You stop letting other people's behavior dictate your peace. You stop letting small things shake you. Your silence becomes the boundary that protects your sanity. And you start noticing how much lighter your life feels when you refuse to carry unnecessary weight. You begin to create routines that support your purpose. You invest time into learning, reflecting, healing. You choose to surround yourself with people who push you higher instead of pulling you down. You treat your mind like a garden, removing the weeds, planting new ideas, watering new beliefs, refusing to let negativity grow. As this internal transformation expands, your external world slowly begins to match it. You start attracting opportunities that feel right for you. You start meeting people who understand your journey without needing explanations. You start stepping into spaces you once felt unready for. That's the hidden reward of silent growth. Life starts responding to the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. And here's the truth about this stage. It feels peaceful, but powerful. It feels calm, but unstoppable. You don't need to announce anything. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain why you're becoming more selective, more focused, more disciplined. Your silence explains it for you. There's a shift in your energy, subtle but undeniable. You carry yourself differently. You prioritize differently. You speak differently. You no longer tolerate chaos, inconsistency, or disrespect. You have learned to walk away without anger, stay grounded without fear, and choose peace without guilt. That is real strength. People may not understand why you've changed, but that's okay. Growth doesn't need an audience. Transformation doesn't need permission. Your life is expanding in ways only you can feel right now. You're building a mindset that can handle challenges. You're creating a future that will amaze you, and you're doing it one quiet choice at a time. The deeper you grow in silence, the more powerful you become. Not because silence hides you, but because silence builds you. It sharpens your focus. It strengthens your discipline. It refines your character. It prepares you for the life you're about to step into. A life defined by clarity, purpose, and self-mastery. You're not the same. You're becoming stronger, wiser, calmer, more intentional. And the best part? You're only getting started.